Hi, my name is Amber Ramirez, and this is my baseball analysis. Um, for today, we will be looking at the table of contents. So, where you will go over introductions, so it's a basic overview of baseball and their presentation goals. We'll be going over physical demands, key physical indicators, so KPIs, pitching velocity, batting swing, speed, agility, and positional demands. Common limitations, relevant information for success, injury prevention strategies, sample microcycles, off-season, preseason, in-season phases with a explanation on why I picked that phase. Then we will have training strategies as a collegiate coach, exercise demonstrations, and conclusion. So for introduction, we have that baseball is a bat and ball team sport defined by a sequential interdependence. Every action directly influences the next. A pitcher's delivery sets off a chain of responses, the batter's swing, the fielder reaction, and the runner's decisions. While players are evaluated individually, pitchers, catchers, infielders, and outfielders, success depends on team coordination and communication. The sport is unique in its blend of explosive, specialized movements like pitching, batting, and sprinting, and long periods of low intensity activity. This intermediate structure was makes baseball both a physical and mental contest, requiring endurance, focus, and tactical awareness across games that often lasted 2 to 3 hours. Main purpose of this presentation is to examine sport performance, strength techniques in baseball that enhance velocity, power, agility, and durability, while reducing injury risk. We will connect physiological demands, key performance indicators, and injury prevention strategies to, to, to evidence-based training methods. Now, for physical demands, we have explosive movements. So, pitching, which is maximum velocity throws with a high stress on the shoulder and elbow, batting, rotational power, and bat swing velocity for hitting performance. And then, of course, sprinting, so short maximum accelerations during base running or fielding. Then we have intermediate activity. Most time is spent standing, walking, or even jogging. Then we have high intensity actions, are brief seconds per play, but decisive for performance. And then we have that work to rest ratio. Baseball, it has a high rest to work ratio, long periods of inactivity punctuated by short bursts of maximum efforts. We have outfielders average 6 to 8 high speeds runs per game, while infielders have 3 to 5 high speed runs per game. Moving on, we have energy systems and positional specific demands. For energy systems training within baseball, we have ATP and PCR systems fuel explosive efforts like pitching, batting, sprinting. Anaerobic glycolysis supports repeated short bursts of multiple throws or swings or sprints at a time. And then we have aerobic system, which maintains endurance and recovery across long games. For position and their demands, we have for pitchers, we have endurance for repeated throws, velocity and accuracy. For catchers, we have strength and durability for squatting, throwing, and receiving the ball. Infielders, we have agility, rapid decision making, strong arms for quick and effective throws. And then outfielders, we have speed, explosive sprints, and a long distance coverage. Moving on for physical demands, impact on training strategies, we have explosive power training, which translates to Olympic lifts, plyometrics, and medicine ball throws to replicate pitching and batting demands. Agility and speed work focuses on short sprints, change of direction, drills, and base running simulations. For endurance conditioning, we focus on aerobic intervals to sustain focus and recovery during longer games. Position-specific programming. We want to tailor trainings for pitchers, for catchers, for infielders, and outfielders. Pitchers are focusing on their arm care, having a longer duration on being able to effectively throw fastballs every single time. Catchers, their durability, being able to squat for longer periods of time, and then, of course, popping back up to make a good play Infielders, the agility, quick decision makings, a quick burst, and then of course outfielders speed. They're having to run so long, so fast out of nowhere of spending minutes of just standing and then having to make a quick pay to catch that long ball. And then, of course, load management. So we need to monitor these baseballers' pitch counts, their sprint volumes, and throwing workload to prevent overuse injuries. Now, for the key performance indicators, we have pitching velocity, which is pitching performance, which is velocity. So fast speed is primarily a KPI for recruitment and success within pitchers. Accuracy and control, so high velocity without command reduces effectiveness. A pitcher needs to be able to be effective and know exactly where the baseball is going within the box. Then we have biomechanics, trunk tilt, shoulder external rotation, and lead knee flexion are linked to a higher velocity, so how fast that ball is moving when it releases from that hand. Then testing methods could be anything from radar gun for velocity and strike zone accuracy drills. Training strategies will be strengthening that rotator cuff, medicine ball rotation throws, and lower body power lifts like squatting. Them or RDLs, and then we have batting performance. So we have bat swing velocity, strong predictor of exit velocity and offensive production. We have power and rotation. So a lean body mass, lower body strength, and a rotational core stability drive hitting success. Testing methods would be bat speed sensors or an exit velocity tracking. Training strategy would be working on the rotation core work, so landmine rotations or pull-off press, plyometrics, and Olympic lifts like cleans or snatches of sort. Then we have other key performance indicators for infielders. For first and third baseman, we have offensive KPIs, so on-base percentages and slugging percentage and batting average, as well as defensive KPIs. First basemen have explosive accelerations for fielding, while third basemen have a strong, accurate throws across the diamond. So constantly they're always scanning to make sure everyone is in the right position. And then the training strategies would be agility drills, sprint accelerations, and arm care routines. As for outfielders, they have more of a high-speed running distance, so covering larger areas quickly, explosive accelerations reacting to batted balls, and then throwing metrics, so distance and accuracy to prevent base advancements. Training strategies for this would be sprint intervals, resisted sprints, and long toss throwing programs. For general KPIs within baseball, we have on-base percentage, which will reflect on hitting and plate disciplines. Slugging percentages would indicate power hitting ability, and then agility and speed tests, so shuttle runs or base running drills. And then, of course, strength and stability, squat and deadlift performance, core stability for that rotational power that they need. Common limitation to injuries, we have shoulder injuries, which are the most frequent from pitchers. Common issues are rotator cuff strains and tears, labrum tears, or inflammation. Normally, the impact is poor return to play rating from 33 to 87%. Poor return to play. Average time loss is about 69 days. And of course, the cause would be overhead pitching motion places, extreme stress on the shoulder joints. Then we have elbow injuries. We have the UCL tears among the most severe. This is the most average loss of time, so it's 90 to 623 days, depending on the type of surgery that they get. So if for whatever reason, depending on the surgery, it could be close from 90 days, or it can be as 623, but normally, it's not going that excessive, but that is the average. And then the impact would be reduced velocity and workload even after the return. And then causes would be reactive throwing mechanics and overuse. Lower extremity injuries, we have hamstring strains, which are common across all the positions, especially when they're in that sprinting phase. So we see a lot of ACL tears, which are frequent in fielders and base runners. Average time lost about 156 to 418 days. The impact would be reduced speed, agility and workload after recovery. And then, of course, the performance impact would be shoulder and elbow surgeries often lead to decreased throwing and velocity accuracy. Lower limb injuries reduce sprint speed, agility, and explosiveness. So injuries can alter mechanics and increasing risk of re-injury, which is extremely important because then we would have preventive measures and injury reduction strategies. So for off-season conditioning, we would want to build a foundation strength, mobility, and endurance before competition. Then we want to progressively ramp up, gradually increasing their throwing and sprinting loads to reduce early season injuries. Then, of course, we want to implement stretching and strengthening. Of course, for stretching, we want that sleeper stretch for shoulder flexibility that is very common for baseball players. And then for strengthening the rotator cuffs, that external rotation band work, we want them that to be in their everyday routine. Also, with hamstring and calf strengthening, it's very important for them to do Nordic curls or single leg RDLs so that they can reduce the strains in their hamstrings or calves. Then, of course, their mechanics training, reinforcing proper throwing and running techniques to minimize joint stress to, of course, remove any nagging injuries or remove any UCLs. And then we have that we want to workload monitoring. So we want to monitor tracking their pitch count, sprint volumes, and throwing loads. Recovery protocols will be anything from foam rolling, mobility circuits, and scheduling rest days. Then relevant information for success within baseball, we have that explosive power and velocity kind of integrates with pitching speed, bat swing velocity, and sprint acceleration drive game outcomes. Rotational strength and core stability essential for batting, power, and throwing mechanics. Agility and speed, quick reactions for fielding, base running, and defensive plays. Then we have durability and recovery. So shoulder, elbow, or hamstring health are critical for a long season for baseball players. And then, of course, managing their workload. So monitoring their pitch counts, sprint volumes, and recovery, ensuring sustained performance. Specific injury prevention techniques and exercises. We have that shoulder arm health. So this sleeper stretch, which will improve shoulder flexibility, strengthening their rotator cuffs, and the benefits towards that would be reducing the risk of rotator cuffs and labrum injuries for pitchers and fielders. Core and rotational throws. We want to implement medicine ball rotation throws, playoff press or landmine, which the benefits would enhance bat swing velocity and throwing power while protecting the spine. For lower limb strength and stability, we want to implement Nordic hamstring curls or single leg RDLs or lateral slides to improve balance and agility. Benefits is to reduce the risk of ACL or hamstring injuries, improving their sprint mechanics. And then we have mobility and posture, so thoracic spine mobilities to improve their trunk rotation for pitching and battling. We want to improve their hip openers. We want to include dynamic stretching to enhance their stride length and explosiveness. Their benefits will prevent compensation stress on shoulders and elbows. And then for recovery and protocols, we have that we want to implement foam rolling and stretching, maintaining tissue quality and reduce soreness, active recovery sessions like cycling, yoga, and light aerobic work. And of course, benefits would be long-term durability across the season. Sample macrocycle for baseball performances, we have that the first phase, which would be off-season phase, a truly hypertrophy with strength. Its main emphasis is to build foundation strength, correcting imbalances, increasing their muscle mass, and improve mobility. My rationale was for off-season to provides time for higher training volumes without game stress, building a general fitness reduces injury risk, and prepares athletes for explosion preseason work. Example workouts can be full body lifts like squats, deadlifts, row, press. Rotational core can be medicine, ball throws, or Pallof press. Mobility and flexibility can be dynamic stretching or yoga. Conditioning would be interval sprints or sled pushes. For preseason phase, I want to implement max strength, power, and sport-specific skills. So now converting strength into explosive power, integrating baseball-specific drills, and refining mechanics. Main rationale is that athletes need to transition from general strength to sport-specific power and agility. There has been some evidence on this that Olympic lifts and plyometrics improve bat swing velocity and pitching performance. Speed, agility drills replicate base running and fielding demands. Examples of these workouts would be Olympic lifts from power cleans, snatches, hand cleans. Plyometrics can be box jumps or box depths, lateral bounds. For speed and agility, we have shuttle runs, base running drills, and then throwing mechanics, weighted ball work, band exercises. And then last but not least, we have in-season phases. So this is power maintenance, this is speed, this is recovery. We want to maintain their strength and their power that they have just received in the preseason. We want to manage their fatigue and the workload of now being in season and prioritizing recovery. Main rationale is their training volume must decrease to balance competition and travel demands, but intensity should be high to preserve performance. Main evidence that I've seen on this was that in-season maintenance should be around 75 to 85% of their one rep max, preserve strength without excessive fatigue, and also neuromuscular warm-ups reduces shoulder and elbow risks. Example workouts would be low volume, high intensity lifts like trap bar deadlifts or bench presses. Then we will have explosive medicine ball throws, sprint intervals, which are short accelerations, mobility, and recovery foam rolling. Now here we have a YouTube link which will show us a clean hang that would be very beneficial for, there we go. Be very beneficial for the, let me just get there. Yeah, here you go. They'll be very beneficial for strength. We'll go more into on what exactly it's going to be hitting, but this would be one of the exercises. And then we will have single leg RDL. So it's right here. Single leg RDL, and then we would move on to a core workout, core bracing, and it's going to be at 3 minutes 17. So this is the Pavlov press. This will be, of course, another anti-rotation exercise that baseball athletes can use for their programs as well. Okay. So perfect. And then we'll be moving on to training strategies as a collegiate sport performance coach. My methodologies would be periodized programming. So off season, I want to build strength, hypertrophy, and general condition. Moving on to preseason, converting strength into explosive power and refine baseball specific skills. In season, we're maintaining those gains, maintaining performance, managing the fatigue, and emphasizing recovery. Evidence-based training. So I'm using the KPIs like pitch velocity, bat swing speed, sprint accelerations to guide programming, to guide my programming for these baseball athletes. I want to monitor their workload with pitch count, sprint volume, and athletes' readiness scores. Also integrating approach, so blending strength, conditioning, skill work, and recovery into unified plans. However, to do so, we need to collaborate with coaches, with athletic trainers, with nutritionists, with sports psychologists. So there's more of a holistic approach. We want to integrate all of these sections so that the athletes can elevate, can excel in their sport. We want them to be grounded. We want them to have all the resources so that there's no excuses, so that they have all the help, they have the environment, they have the culture, they have the trust and rapport to do really good at their sport. And that is the environment that I would want to create for my athletes, is if I was, their collegiate coach. And then for techniques, we want strength and power development. So I would use trap bar deadlifts, squats, lunges to build that lower body strength. I would use Olympic lifts like hand cleans or power cleans for force production for batting and pitching. For agility and speed training, I would use base running drills, shuttle runs, resisted sprints. I would also use reactive agility games to simulate defensive plays, but also to keep them a little bit loose, have them, have some fun, maybe not take themselves so seriously, compete with one another because as athletes, you want to compete. You want to, in a way, feel, like you're winning or, kind of working towards something. And then injury prevention integration, I would want them to do a lot of shoulder care. So doing a lot of sleeper stretches, rotator cuff band work, making sure that they're constantly strengthening those rotator cuffs. So it's a must every single day. They have to focus on that. And then of course we have hamstring protection. So I would want to implement some Nordic curls or single leg RDLs for core stability. The playoff press, like the anti-rotation holds, would be really good for baseball players as well. For recovery and regeneration, we have active recovery sessions, so cycling, yoga, mobility circuits. Also, swimming is a good one. And the most important out of all of this will all go to waste if athletes are not sleeping and if they're not eating well. So, of course, we need to monitor, monitor their sleep cycles or how long they're sleeping, if they're eating well, because this will optimize their adaptation. And then things to consider is their individual like positions. So we have for pitchers that we want to take care of their arm. So we have arm care, endurance, velocity, control. Catchers, we want their durability, their hip mobility needs to be on point, and trunk strength because they're constantly squatting for many, many, I would say hours. And then, they're popping back up to hit a quick play, to hit on second base or something, right? Then we have infielders, their agility, their rapid decision making, throwing mechanics. That's very crucial. And they're one of like the heart of the team on kind of making sure that the team is working well defensively. And then outfielders, we have sprint, endurance, explosive accelerations, and long toss throwing. Then we have conclusions and key takeaways. So baseball requires explosive velocity, rotational power, and agility, balanced with endurance and recovery. KPIs such as pitching, velocity, bat swings, speed, sprint accelerations, and agility tests guide training. Injury prevention is essential, targeting shoulders, elbows, hamstrings, and ACLs with these structured programs. Phase programming like off-season, preseason, in-season ensures that athletes peak at the right time while minimizing their fatigue. And thank you.